Warning: this episode contains some strong language. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, and welcome to Tales from the Trunk, reading the stories that did make it. I'm Hilary B. Bisnieks. Listeners, I am super excited to welcome back to the show Megan E. O'Keefe, because we haven't had a good old-fashioned spaceship book on here in a while, and Megan always delivers with those. Megan, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. I always love being on here.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been so long since we recorded together last. It feels utterly unbelievable.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at that the other day and I was like, crap, it's been so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As we know, time is fake, and also, like...
Yes.
I don't know, it feels especially artificial that it's like... I don't know, the last time I think anybody was on to talk about spaceship books, it was our good friend Valerie Valdez, and before that...
yeah, Valerie's
I don't
great.
think we'd talked spaceships since, like, KB Wagers was on. So, like...
Oh, yeah. Katie's also great.
It's been a while. But, you know, the art direction that your publisher has been doing is fantastic in terms of telling me exactly what I need to know, which is this book has spaceships in it, and it's going to be good because it has Megan E. O'Keefe's name on the cover.
I was very spoiled by that cover. They didn't tell me who the artist was until they released the image, and then I was like, oh my, it's Jaime Jones. Like, they never miss. Like, it's excellent.
So, without just saying spaceship books a million more times, which I know I could... we're here today to talk about your brand new book, The Blighted Stars, which is the first book of the Devoured Worlds trilogy.
Yep.
Is there anything that we need to know before we get into the reading?
Yeah, so this, the reading's actually from a little bit onwards in the book. It's in the beginning of the third chapter. So the context you sort of need for it is the two protagonists, only one of which you'll see here, are on opposite sides of a revolution, basically.
Oh, we love to see that.
Yeah, it's a revolutionary in action. There's body printing in this world.
Ooh.
And our revolutionary is masquerading in the body of the bodyguard for the son of the sort of oligarchy empire type situation. And they were going to this planet that's called Sixth Cradle because all of the worlds are sort of dying off in this universe. And Sixth Cradle, well, all of the cradles are supposed to be planets that are still functional for humanity. But the family of the son that she's masquerading as the bodyguard for has been mining these planets for a rare mineral that allows them to print into bodies, build spaceships, all that kind of stuff.
Of course, yep.
The planets seem to die shortly thereafter this mining takes place.
Oof.
So she is used to work for the family, turned against them, is infiltrating to take them down and save the planets.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
We love to hear about it.
So, alright. This is from The Blighted Stars, coming out from Orbit, May 23rd. The blue marble rushed toward her, and it was wrong. A thick blanket of atmosphere covered the cradle, swirled with fluffy clouds. Glistening blue seas swathed the planet, and that was correct, expected. But a cradle, this cradle, was supposed to be an Earth simulant. Green and lush and full of flora and fauna, but no people, not yet. Nera had been born on Second Cradle, and had lived through that planet's collapse. She'd seen the other cradles in footage, and in life, as she and the conservators tore through the last two mining fleets, rending them to quantum foam before they could drop their terrible payloads and erase the green. That green was what Nera protected, what she'd given up everything to preserve. The sixth cradle was not green. A gray sheen draped the landmasses in funeral despair. The thin layer of shroud lichen enveloping the world glinted, shining at certain angles. Green existed, she noted with detached interest. It veined through the gray and dead things, whispered of growth and renewal. But Nera knew the progress of planetary collapse syndrome, and when the shroud lichen was that advanced, the fight was already over. Those threads of green were not spring come anew. They were a last gasp, a desperate burst of life before the end. She had come to save this world, and it was already dead. How and why were unhelpful questions when you were plummeting through an atmosphere at the terminal velocity of a shuttle's mass, gaining in speed as the ship jerked, found an arc trajectory to the ground, became ballistic. Nera put all her stunned questions aside, wrapped them up in a box to be opened later, and focused on landing the shuttle. You couldn't answer questions when you were a smear on the ground. Decreasing speed, Captain Payson said. Absolutely not. Hell, if this thing has any more kick in it, pour it on. We don't have a damping system capable of withstanding G's any stronger than we're taking, Exemplar. You want to live to see the ground. We have to slow this bitch down. Don't drop us before 75% of max, Nera said. We need that speed to get clear of the Amaranth, which is the ship that's exploding above them. Which she may or may not have blown up.
Whoops.
What is the state of the projected debris field? The captain asked. First impact wave in 40 seconds, Nera said. Payson's hands danced through her console's projections, switching power from the engines to the shields. The shuttle whined as it was forced to power down, but in Nera's HUD, the shields glowed a triumphant green. Impact, Nera said. The shuttle rocked, green shields wilting away to yellow. A freckle of red. Her stomach lurched as the shuttle rolled sideways. She gripped the edges of the console podium to brace herself. Don't lose trajectory. What's wrong with the stabilizers? This is a shuttle, not a warship, Payson snapped. Payson grabbed a smaller square of a menu and bunched it in her fist, then tossed it to Nera's console. The main controls for the stabilizers winked up at her, and the helpful letters that read AI Guidance System were solidly red. The GUI designer had even put a neat strike-through line across those letters for extra emphasis when shit went sideways. In theory, Exemplar Lockhart, the bodyguard she is masquerading as, could micromanage the stabilizer system with ease. In theory, she had the exact same training when she'd been an exemplar in her own right. But theory didn't do you a fuckload of good when you'd spent the last 5 years piloting raiding ships cobbled together from scrap out on the edges of society. The shuttle was so new, she didn't even recognize the layout of the stabilizers. A menu caught her eye, and she flicked aside the stabilizer controls, digging deep until she found a weapons panel. Weapons, she knew. Shuttles didn't come with much, but this was a Mercator mission, and a Salus Mercator was a paranoid bastard. She sunk her hands into the holo display, taking direct physical control of the weapons, and targeted the largest chunks of the Amaranth, as denoted by her HUD. The weapons obliged, kicking to life with the joy that she might be projecting onto them, because it had been far too long since she'd gotten to fire weapons on a real ship. Most of her life had been bombs, hacking, and knives in the dark since she'd joined the Conservators. What do you think you're doing? Payson asked. Taking care of our debris problem? Payson muttered under her breath as she worked. The reddish light of the warnings made the sweat on the captain's skin shine with pink diamonds. All the meekness Nera had picked up from her earlier burned away under the laser-perfect precision of extreme focus. If Nera was going to die today, at least it would be due to her own incompetence. A warning screamed in her HUD, jerking her out of the flow state she'd entered with the weapons. It took her a second to place the source. The red mass impact warnings had been overshadowed by a pulsing purple light, a vast sheet of energy spreading the thick canopy above. Containment had broken on the warp core. Warp explosion imminent, Nera said. Drop shields, drop us. Get as much air between us and that ship as you can. Payson's muttered litany switched to a long list of swears that Nera found strangely comforting. She gritted her teeth, dug her arms deep into the weapons panel, and used every scrap of skill and quick twitch reflex that the pathways along her skin would grant her to destroy the physical debris raining from above. It wasn't enough. The shuttle shot like an arrow through the atmosphere of Sixth Cradle, jerking as small impacts threatened to knock them off course, to break through their hull. The back end of the shuttle began to weave, a subtle fishtail that would slowly mount, until the shuttle plunged into a death spiral from which it couldn't recover. "Brace," Payson said. Naira punched up a feed from one of their external cameras and pinned it to the top center of her display. She wanted to see it, wanted to watch that wave of death wash toward her. The amaranth had cracked like an egg, the black heart at its center, throwing off its shackles at last. Bits of the ship showered the land below, raining fire, as they burned up in the atmosphere. Though she couldn't see the damage done to the planet's surface, she could see its evidence. Thick, greasy smoke spiraled upwards, darkening the sky and making her view hazy, dreamlike. Light lensed at the internal edges of the ship, warping along a subtle curve, as the uncontained warp core opened its mouth for one last roar. A sphere of perfect light hovered above. For a fraction of a second, a moment, a vision so quick she could have told herself she imagined it later, the warp core seemed to stare into Naira, to know her, and then it blinked out of existence.
Woo!
That's their crash landing.
I'm so excited.
It was a fun one. It was really fun to write.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this is ticking all the boxes for me.
So, speaking of spaceships, there are many.
Yeah, I've been really my brain has been deep into sci-fi sickness right now between
Good timing.
Yeah. Between this and I just finished reading The Archive Undying by Emma Mieko Candon, which
I've heard good things.
Stick around next month, listeners. Spoiler alerts. And also getting into the new season of Friends at the Table, which they're doing their next sci-fi season right now. So, like,
fun, yeah.
I am right there for this.
Good. It was a lot of fun to write. I said it's got, it's got AI, it's got contagion, it's got all sorts of cool stuff.
AI complementary as opposed to the large language models that have been plaguing us recently.
Machine learning. No. Yeah. It's actually the
awakening. When the AI is
though.
fucked up in this, we like it, as opposed to...
Yeah.
So of all the fun things that you got to write, are there any parts, because this is, of course, Tales from the Trunk, are there any parts that just didn't make it into this book that you don't think are going to be in the following two sequels? Because I know sometimes first book of the trilogy, you have to cut things, but you can put them in later.
For sure, yeah. So with this book, I actually ended up, after I turned it in, I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about it. I just kept thinking, the reveal, basically when the so-called prince of the mining company, right, discovers that his bodyguard is actually his enemy. I thought it came too soon. I'd wanted to move it later. And when I finally got to the point where I was having a call with my editor about it, she, said all the nice things, then, but I really think this might be a big change. We should maybe move the reveal. And I was like, you don't say. So it's always nice when you're sort of on the same wavelength like that. So I ended up moving it substantially back after he was, well and properly smitten with his bodyguard. Got to push him as far back as possible. But it meant I had to move a few things around in the beginning. There was one really good scene, a really emotive scene, I felt with, like, he'd been captured and he was really in trouble, that I had to get rid of. And it's a little sad because everybody likes, a prince on his knees. What's not to like about that, right? But I was able to sort of get the feel of that again later in book 2. So.
Nice. Fantastic. Well, it's especially nice when you can cut one thing out but put it in even better later.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a better time for it later on.
Yeah.
And book 2 actually comes out September, so you don't have to wait long for
nice.
it.
This is what I like. I will admit I was like several years late on the Imperial Radch trilogy, but it did mean that I didn't have to wait in between reading all of them.
Yeah, that is very nice.
Yeah. As opposed to, I got into that right at the same time. I went to the bookstore looking specifically for spaceship books, and I bought Ancillary Justice, and then I bought this brand new book that had just come out, was making some waves, called Ninefox Gambit.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
It's a great book. I love it.
I had to wait a little while before the next one in that series came out.
Yeah. Well, these are, they're done. The third book is been with my editor. So they should be coming out fairly quickly.
Fantastic. Well, we love to hear that. Having touched on some fun things already that are forthcoming or had to be moved around, without giving too much away, do you have a favorite part that you can tell us from this book?
I mean, there's a couple. Like, it's hard to... You don't want to pick a favorite child, right?
Yeah.
It's like asking me to pick a favorite cat. That's not a thing that exists. There are a couple. I'm gonna cheat.
Do it, please.
I love... we talked a little bit about the artificial intelligence. That was a lot of fun for me to write. It's not... people listening to this happen to be familiar with Velocity Weapon and the Protector books. This is a very different artificial intelligence than Barrow was. Very different. This one is awakening and coming into being actively on the page from its point of view.
Oh.
Which was just a lot of fun to write. And I got to nerd out a little about programming stuff. And you will see like what logic loops are evident in the text and how it's thinking about things, right?
I'll be looking for it.
Yeah. So it was really fun to do. And there's just there's a lot of creepy things that I enjoyed, and some cute things regarding, so the male protagonist is a geologist, right? And I just love rocks. Like, I think they're really neat. Which is probably evident if anyone's read my Scorched Continent trilogy. And even in Velocity Weapon, there was, like, gratuitous descriptions of like, rocks that probably didn't need to be there, but you have to indulge yourself sometimes. So.
Yeah, I remember talking about this.
Yeah. So, I actually get to have a geologist character this time around. And there was some fun things that I got to do with that, including him being mocked ruthlessly for licking a rock. Which was always entertaining.
That's excellent. Oh, one of the Discord servers I'm on has a specific emote and a bot reaction for rock licking.
Oh, I think I need that.
Yeah, I'll track it down. I'll send that to you after this.
Excellent.
I love this for you. I'm very excited whenever anybody gets to be like, yeah, special interest. I'm going to put that on the page.
Yep, it's all in there. Occasionally my editor would be like, can we trim this? I'm like, we're going to have to fight over that one.
Fabulous.
Sorry. This was, actually, I wrote these about 2020 to 2021. And a few things were going on then. So,
just a couple.
Just a few. And my writing discords, everybody was talking about, we were calling it id fiction at the time. It was like, just do whatever you can to like get the good crunchy stuff that you love, grab it all and shove it in one box.
Yep.
So that's what's going on there. It's like, you know what? I'm going to indulge.
Yeah.
Got my creepy AI, my creepy fungus, and cool rocks.
I mean, I could say what more could you need, but there's lots of other things on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but those are pretty near the top.
Pretty high up there. Yeah, definitely, at least in the point, that area.
Yeah. So, obviously, coming out on May the 22nd, we have the Blighted Stars. Is there anything else that you would like to have our listeners know about? Maybe a standalone novella out with Orbit?
Funny that you should mention that. My last release with Orbit is called The First Omega. It's a really cool sort of android cyberpunk story that I like a lot. It's a novella. It's about 30,000 words, I think, somewhere in that range. It's digital only, so unfortunately you can only get it that way for now. But it's one of my favorite things. It's kind of, I don't know, Cormac McCarthy by way of Philip K. Dick in its tone. Like, it's super gritty Badlands. There's rocks, now that I'm thinking about it, actually. But it's fun. It's like cyberpunk. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Deadlands.
I mean, I always love a novella. Love being able to finish a book in a day.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to...
It's always satisfying.
Finish, the brand new Terry Pratchett in a day, but also I had
God, yeah.
I have a lot more obligations now than I did back then.
I used to mainline those too. Yeah.
Yeah.
He tricks you because there's no chapters.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, oh, there's no stopping point. So I guess I won't.
There's no stopping. You just...
Yeah.
I would plan it out. My dad got it first because he's the one who got me into Pratchett.
That's
so
fair,
he'd read it, and then the next day I would set myself a nice early alarm, get up, make a cup of tea, plop myself down on the couch, read the whole book, get back up, realize I have a body and I need to take care of it, and then,
gosh, that's annoying.
Be really hangry and, make food or something. But, yeah. Speaking of things that we love, is there anything that you've been consuming recently that you're just super hyped up and want to tell our listeners about?
Oh, gosh. To be perfectly honest, I've just been playing far too many video games for my own good.
That's fair.
Just Final Fantasy XIV is what I've been playing, which needs no hype, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Andrea Stewart's, it's just out today, actually. The third book in her trilogy, is it Bone Shard War? Is that the third one? Yeah, I think
sounds
it's War.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's so good.
Fantastic.
So good. Yeah, Andrea and we've been in a writing group together for 10 years. So I got to read those early and help her play with plotting stuff. And it's so good. I love those characters.
Fabulous. Yeah, Andrea's great.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Finally, before we get going, Megan, where can our listeners find you elsewhere on the internet?
Oh, yeah, I am on Twitter.
Lol.
Probably still when this comes out. I don't know what's going to happen there. As Megan E. O'Keefe. I'm on Instagram, too, as the Megan Folio. And I am actually on Twitch, also as Megan E. O'Keefe. And if you are a very specific kind of person, I'm also on GitHub.
I mean, I am a very specific kind of person, yes, so...
Yeah, most of my repos are not public, unfortunately, for now. Yeah. But I am on GitHub as Tiny Moons Dev, I think. If you would like to, I don't know, show me your... Oh gosh, I love state machines right now. That's kind of a hyper focus. Show me your state machines. Why not?
This is just making me think. I know I have half-abandoned repos that I need to revisit right now.
Yeah,
we're getting close to it being fire season again, so I should probably finish making my little, just sit by the door, one-button air quality monitor box.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Maybe I'll post a link to that repo in the show notes as well, but I got to play with MicroPython a little bit. Use
fun.
the There's a port of the requests library, which is really all you need, and then sign up for the Purple Air developer account. They'll send you some API keys, and you can get going.
Yeah, nice.
And from there, it's just like, I don't know, mostly I think I got hung up because I need to do hardware design at this point.
Yeah,
which is like
takes a lot of brain.
Yeah,
a lot of brain.
And like, my 3D printer is staring accusingly at me right now because it knows that I can actually do that.
Yep.
I just haven't.
Yeah. That's relatable.
Yeah. One final thing, fun little note before we get going, a treat for our listeners who maybe don't follow you religiously on Twitter or just like aren't in writing communities with you. I'd love if you could say a little bit about your last Let 'Em Dare game, because that was fun watching.
That was so much fun. Yeah, so for those who aren't familiar, Let 'Em Dare is like it's a challenge called a game jam, where you make a game in, I think it's 72 hours. It's a weekend.
Yeah, it's
right?
a weekend-ish.
It's a weekend, yeah. And you're supposed to do it from scratch. That's sort of in the spirit of things. And I hadn't done game dev in a little while, so I thought, what the heck, I'll do this when I saw it coming up. And I ended up making a 2D platformer, pixel art, completely from scratch pixel art. And it's this really fun little robot, and he's running around, and you're on a space station, and something has happened to the space station. I won't say exactly what yet, but your job as a robot, you're supposed to take care of the plants, that they grow food there. And so you have to manage your water and power levels to keep the plant alive as you sort of fight your way to the surface to save the plant and yourself. This was far too large of a project for 72 hours. Anyone who does game dev is probably shaking their head at me right now because that was never going to get finished. But my goal there was to get the core mechanics in place and, saving databases, back-ending kind of stuff, and player controller type things. No state machines, sadly. I should fix that. But
plus, the robot is just a very good shape.
He's
just very shaped little guy.
I think I really heavily imprinted on Johnny Five. Do you remember him from Short Circuit? And Grippy from the Protectorate series kind of looks like him. Like this actual physical robot I made in high school kind of looks like him. And this robot definitely looks a bit like him. So if you like Grippy from the Protectorate, it's very similar. It was a lot of fun. And I am still developing it, actually. I'm building out level 3 right now.
That's excellent. I'm very excited to see your next update.
Yeah, the first 2 levels are available for play on itch, actually. They're up there.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Link to that also will be in the show notes, listeners, because I know you're probably interested in that now, too.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'm so glad I remembered that, because I've been thinking for, months, hey, I need to bring this up when we actually podcast, but I didn't write that down or anything.
No.
Who writes things down?
Not me. It's just gone the second I think it most of the time.
Yep. We're in a vibes-based economy right now, baby.
Yep. It's all vibes. No timelines.
Nope. Well, Megan, it's been so fun having you on the show once again.
Yeah, it's been a blast. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I am certain, especially given the pace that you write books at, that we will have cause to have you on the show once again.
Probably. There is a mysterious standalone coming shortly, so...
Fantastic.
More spaceships.
Very good. You know what I like. Tales from the Trunk is mixed and produced in beautiful Oakland, California. Our theme music is Paper Wings by Lillian Boyd. You can support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/trunkcast. All patrons of the show now get a sticker and logo button, along with show outtakes and other content that can't be found anywhere else. You can find the show on Twitter, lol, @Trunkcast, and I tweet @HBBisnieks. If you like the show, consider taking a moment to rate and review us on your preferred podcast platform. And remember, don't self-reject.